I'm standing in a spot of our soybean field that we planted on July 8th, which is almost 2 months later than we planted the rest of the field of soybeans. So let me show you what the late planted soybeans are looking like. In all honesty, for these beans being planted 2 months late, they do not look half bad. They are loaded up with pods. Obviously, they still have a long ways to go. The beans are really flat and small on the inside, so hopefully catch some rain. But the problem is, these beans look good, but they're short and they're not very wide, so they're not shading the rows. So in all of our drowned out spots, just like this one here, we're having a fair amount of weeds that have moved in, not only from the water, but also because the rows aren't shaded or covered with our crop canopy. Now the high-tech way to kill these weeds would be to hire a drone or an airplane to come out here, spray down some herbicide, hit just different areas of the field where we have bad weed pressure like we do here. But because that's gonna cost about 15 to 20 bucks an acre, and we're not looking to spend any more money on this year's crop, just because the way the crop looks, the way the prices are, it's just not a smart financial investment. So we're not gonna have any drones or airplanes out in today's video, but let me show you guys and warn you, because some of you might have had to do this not too long ago. Well, let me show you what we're doing. Well, I was gonna show you the garden hole that I brought along, but after recording that last clip, I walked a couple feet away, lost the darn garden hose, so now it looks like we're just back to pulling the weeds out by hand, at least until we find that garden hole that we lost out here. It is like 4 hours later now, but I did get all the weeds picked out of this little drowned out patch right here. I found the hoe about halfway through. Didn't use this much at all just because of the size of the weeds, and the weeds were too close to the rows of soybeans. But I would say, doing this job, I learned 2 things that I'm gonna remember for next year farming and probably any other wet year like this year. The first thing is row spacing. So that's the measurement between this row and that row, which on our farm is 30 inches. As you can tell, these beans planted at the beginning of July, they're not closing the row. But then if we come up here, these ones planted at the beginning of May, they have the row nice and covered, and they prevent any weeds from growing when they cover the rows like this. If I ever have to replant as many soybean acres as we did this year, which was like 300 acres the first week of July, rather than having another 30-inch planter out here and basically keeping the rows that far apart, I want a 15-inch row planter. That way the rows are just slightly closer. We're gonna shade the ground quicker. We're gonna suppress the weeds more. That's one thing I would definitely want if we ever had as much rain or as many replants of soybeans like we did this year. And the second thing is I need a drone sprayer, because that little half-acre patch we just spent 4 hours hoeing out and picking weeds could have been done in about 15 minutes with the drone sprayer. Obviously, it's a big investment to make, but it could save a lot of time, so I'm gonna rerun the numbers on trying to purchase a drone sprayer for the farm. Outside of that drowned out spot we were just at, the rest of the field of soybeans here looks really, really good. I can show you the beans are just starting to turn color. You can see some yellower leaves down here at the bottom canopy. So the beans leaves are all going to turn yellow, then eventually most of them will fall off the soybean plant, and then we'll come back and start harvesting the pods and the beans inside of them. These beans have the rows nice and shaded, no room for weeds to grow through. Well, maybe right there, but most of the rows shaded. Beans are looking big, so we like to see the bigger the bean, the higher the yield. Now the tough thing's going to be keeping that size of that bean as it dries down. As you can tell, it's still really, really mushy. So it's hard to tell how long till the beans are ready to harvest. Basically wait till all the leaves come off and the beans shell out of those pods easier. But my guess is 3 weeks and we'll be out here combining this field. I've had enough hoeing weeds for today, so we're gonna head back to the farm, get some odds and ends things ready to go down at the bin site. Down here at the bin site, what we need to get done is, of course, at the top of the bins, that right there is what we call a K valve. It directs the grain from the leg into the bin, so it's at the very end of the spout. And the purpose it serves is to kind of slow the grain down so the grain doesn't just come rushing into the grain bin. And there is a deadhead on it, so there's a spot we're gonna climb up there, get that all cleaned out. That way we don't mix any of that rotten grain in with the new grain we're gonna be harvesting. So we'll start climbing them, start cleaning them out. There's not a lot of room to put you guys up here, so that's gonna be the camera angle you get. Yeah, fair amount of rotten corn on here, as per usual. Now that the plate's cleaned off and we have our cushion box cleaned out, we'll put it back on. Get a pretty good view of up here what the crops are looking like. Neighbor's cornfield. He's got a big drowned out spot right there. Another neighbor's bean field. He's got a drowned out spot there. There's our bean field. Beans are turning. Kind of just a cool view from the top of the bin. The bin that we just cleaned the K-valve out on, this is our big corn bin, holds 60,000 bushel. Conveniently, we have a platform to walk right on over to our large 60,000 bushel soybean bin. So I'll shimmy up there and we'll get this K-valve cleaned out too. Notice on these last two grain bins, we don't have a spout right here between the K-valve and the grain bin lid. So in order for us to actually fill the grain bin, we have to come out here, drain harvest, take the lid off the bin. We have a short little spout section that shoots the grain. We attach it right here onto this spout. That way it goes into the center of the bin. Just remember that, because now we're gonna go, I gotta climb down. I'm gonna take you to some of the newer bins to show you some of the improvements those have and the benefits of that. We got to get to the top of our 20,000 bushel wet bin. I'll meet you guys up at that platform. Race you up there. Oh, loose bolt. That's never a good sign. But we're coming up to the top of our 20,000 bushel wet bin. Show you guys what we got going on these newer ones. This one we built last year. Here's the pipe that comes down off the leg and fills into the wet bin. As you can tell, this thing's already welded to the roof of the bin lid, so there's no need for us in the harvest to carry up a spout or anything, which is nice on this one. I think we still have to clean it out. I'm not for certain. We're gonna check that. Obviously there's a benefit to having the cushion box already mounted. That way we don't have to carry up that pipe like we do on the other ones. So that's one benefit of having this style. The drawback to them is anytime we have the fan on at the bottom of the bin and we're trying to force air through our grain to cool it or to take a little bit of moisture out, all that moisture and condensation should go out of these vents, but because that's the topmost part of the bin, naturally it all wants to go up that pipe and fill in up at our distributor and make big condensation chunks and plug up portions on the leg. Ask me how I know, because we've had that happen about 5 years out of the last 10. So we're just trying different things on different bins, trying to see what's gonna work. And back down we go. With the bin site 99% ready to go, the last thing I wanted to do on my summer to-do list down here is I wanted to put a fresh coat of paint out here on the dryer. It seems like the name of the game is everything wants to rust and corrode away down here. So I got a can of some fresh paint. We're gonna paint the stands. We're gonna paint all this red stuff, get it all painted up just to help preserve it and make it last a little longer. Paint the dryer, paint it one more time. This side of the dryer is completely painted. I gotta say, it looks a lot better than what it did before. It didn't take that long. The paint's really, really sticky because it needs to be high temperature paint. Otherwise, when the dryer's running, the paint will just basically start to peel off. I started painting on this box, the control box, but I need to do a little bit of taping around these controls on the outside, but my hands are way too sticky to make that work. And then I'm gonna paint this side as well. But it's 7 o'clock at night. I'm ready for something to eat. So that's it for today's video of High Tech Farmer. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. We'll see ya in the next one.